I caught my cheating wife in Germany. It was supposed to be a work trip like any other. My job as an international consultant often took me to places far from home, but this time, Germany was on the itinerary. My wife, Sarah, and I had been married for 6 years, and while our relationship had its ups and downs, I never suspected anything was wrong. Until that trip. The day started with an unexpected call from a friend, James, who lived in Frankfurt. He asked if I was still in town, suggesting we meet for dinner. I told him I'd just landed in Berlin. What followed left me stunned. Berlin? Funny, I just saw Sarah here yesterday with some guy. Are you sure? I asked, my voice shaking. Positive. I even waved at her, but she didn't seem to notice me. I hung up, a sinking feeling consuming my chest. Sarah had told me she was visiting her parents back home while I was away. Why would she be in Germany, specifically Frankfurt? Trying to remain calm, I called her. How's your trip to your parents' place? I asked casually. She replied with the usual cheerfulness, completely unaware of what I'd just learned. Her answer was a confirmation of her lie. Fueled by suspicion, I booked the first train to Frankfurt that night. I didn't want to believe what James said, but I had to know the truth. As I arrived in Frankfurt, I felt like a detective in a movie. I reached out to James and asked him for the location he'd seen Sarah. He mentioned a small cafe in the city center. The next day, I positioned myself discreetly at a table near the cafe window, hoping against hope that this was all a misunderstanding. An hour passed, and just as I was about to give up, I saw her, Sarah, walking hand in hand with a man I didn't recognize. My heart stopped. It was her, no doubt about it. She laughed at something he said, her expression so carefree that I felt like I was watching a stranger, not the woman I had loved and trusted for years. I couldn't stop myself. I walked out of the cafe and confronted them. Sarah? I called, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and heartbreak. She froze, her eyes widening in shock as the color drained from her face. The man beside her looked confused, glancing between us. I can explain, she stammered, but her words felt hollow. The betrayal was written all over her face, and the man's expression confirmed he had no idea she was married. Explain? Really? I said, my voice rising. Explain how you lied to me and came here to meet him while I was working to support us? The man, realizing the situation, muttered an apology and quickly left. Sarah burst into tears, begging me to let her explain, but I couldn't bear to hear it. The damage was done. I left her standing there on that cobblestone street in Frankfurt, feeling like my world had been turned upside down. That night, I packed my bags and flew back home, leaving her to deal with the mess she had created. In the weeks that followed, I filed for divorce. It wasn't easy, but I refused to let her betrayal define me. Looking back, catching her in Germany was devastating, but it was also liberating. It forced me to confront the truth and move forward, stronger and wiser. Sometimes, life's hardest lessons come disguised as heartbreak.